Sup, dudes and dudettes? This is Morgan Straughan Comnick here, and I have read a snippet of all 7 of my currently published books, which I am just tickled pink that you guys have been so supportive. I've gotten responses back, saying people have been enjoying my readings, so arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much for that. I am so grateful that you guys are interested and just being supportive in general. But something I like to do with all of my books is I like to do like a little bonus feature. So in my first book, Spirit Vision, I did an interview, all questions submitted by my middle school students. The second one had fan art submissions and a competition. And in the third book, The Power of Mortals, I had a short story. I had some students submit cameo characters for Spirit Vision. The chapter 3 segment that I read in the last video, Aurora, or not Aurora, I'm thinking Disney princess, Aura, she was a cameo character created by a student. There was one that just really struck me, one cameo character, and I'm like, this guy is nuts for coconuts. And I love it. So I ended up making a whole short story around an adventure with this new cameo character and Stary, my protagonist. And here it is. So it's at the very end of The Power of Mortals. I'm reading a section that it's not spoiling anything. It does happen. So the end is The Power of Mortals does happen on December 1st. I will say that. And then this happens, I think, Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve. So, you know, there's just a few weeks after the initial story. But I'm really excited to read a snippet of the short story. And it's a very lighthearted, fun tone. So I hope you guys will enjoy it and enjoy this very unique spirit character. So this is my short story that you can only get, though, exclusively in The Power of Mortals. And the story is called Pixelated Paranormals. All right, and I'm going to be reading a few pages from that today. So, and please enjoy the short story, Pixelated Paranormals. My hand bumped the side of the controller, still attached to the system, its orange light informing me it was ready for me to begin as its mistress once more. By instinct, I hit the start button. I regretted that choice immediately. My brain prepared for the figures in front of me to animatedly come to life. Instead, I was presented with a TV filled of static, the sight and sounds one gets when they lose their channel or signal. Baffled and on the edge of thought of losing any data, I exposed myself to my wrist to grip my controller fully, but I was halted back. Without warning from the fuzziness in front of me and the popping of electricity, sprung forward a head, a young man's head. It was smiling too largely, his blonde spikes and eyes lighting up like he swallowed a glow stick factory. The background behind him making this image something out of The Exorcist. The Cheshire cat licking his lips after eating Tweedledum and Tweedledummer. My heart leapt in my throat, deja vu to when I first met Umbra in a very familiar manner, whirling into my panicked brain. I gasped out of breath, my eyes expanding to the point they felt stretched out, only getting a few moments of grace before a full figure emerged out of the TV. Sparks of energy, the glow of ectoplasm clung to him like a thin coat over his hoodie. He extended his arms to show his wingspan, a pose, and look on him like he'd just finished an Olympic gymnastics routine, landing a perfect 10-point gold medal jump. There was no doubt in my mind that this was the boy that randomly occurred in my game after the bizarre gust of wind. Oh, snickerdoodles, that wind was paranormal. Mac and cheese and meatballs, I should have figured that out. Once I realized this, I pinpointed the feel of his aura. Murky, slick, and the oddest, most mystifying thing of all, it was short-circuiting. Electricity sizzling, crackling, all around him, his spikes zapping tiny bolts like a connector rod. That must have explained why he was so washed out in light. However, I knew he wasn't a burn or electric victim. There was no charring. It just came out of his watery blue aura naturally. I studied it closer to see that around his feet, the aura looked like it was snipped with scissors, intact but wanting to unravel. I knew ghosts had frayed auras around their feet, dragging them to the ground, showing they chose to stay. Yet this guy was floating like he had received star power from Super Mario Galaxy, buzzing around like a Luma in his spot. How could he possess the aura of a ghost and a spirit. Was he? Howdy, hey, yo, bro! You better get up or you're gonna get a nasty carpet burn. An overly zealous, cracking voice entered my ears. I looked up to see the spiritual boy giving me a grin that looked glued on by a dental commercial. The model waving his hand in my face. When it got close to me, I arched my head back, whacking it on the bed frame. In all my pondering, I forgot I was still under the bed. Rubbing the soreness away, I forced on the zapping sensation that poked my cheek when his hand was near me. It felt like someone passed a disposable Listerine square on my cheek, as thin as a single sheet of tissue paper, moist to the touch. But a spark hit my cells on contact for a second. It made me blink automatically. I knew this sensation from somewhere. I glared at him through my side vision before I stood to dust food crumbs off my pants and straighten my shirt. 1, I'm not your bro. Thanks for noticing. And 2nd, if you really wanted to meet me, I would have preferred you face for the door, not my brother's TV screen. You crashed my game. I dragged out the words in a mumble at the end, trying not to sound bitter, but it was challenging. I was mentally having a breakdown, imagining the horrors if I had to restart my game. Sorry about that. I was just so pumped that I found a way to get in touch with the spirit warrior. His beam paled him out like someone putting a light bulb in a child's face by a campfire. His expression was full of energy and hope. I wanted to ask how he knew I was the spirit warrior, but I stopped myself, clamping my mouth shut like a clam guarding a pearl. Ever since I helped another spirit, Rico, move on a few months ago, I had spirits flock to me like I was the next teen pop sensation, thanks to my enhanced knowledge and light power trainings that I gained with the official manual for my title, The Spirit Warrior Book. Original, I know. Since I wasn't at school now, I hadn't had any encounters until now. I sighed while I lifted my arms up, then letting them fall like the weights were tied to them. Time for the introduction, and here my mind was reeling with the severe concern that Sora being lost in a file that my memory card couldn't save. Well, you've got the right person. My name's Stary Moon, current spirit warrior. How can I help? I didn't get to finish my sentence because a bolt of energy knocked the breath out of my lungs, sending me on a hard landing, my bottom taking the hit. It took me a few seconds to adjust, getting a feeling for what had just happened. There I saw a slim figure jittering around, engulfed in so much muted electricity that it was hard to make out that it was what it was. The only indicator that let me know it was the spirit boy was that his voice was ringing, rippling. Static was popping through his voice and aura, floating, short-circuiting around us, sounding like a radio talk show speaking at the bottom of a kiddie pool. I knew it! I knew I'd find you! Man, what a jolt this is! And boy, when he said jolt, he wasn't kidding. He rocketed, his feet and the wisp of aura fraying, igniting in a thin stream of white fire, making the whole room pop around me, my ears cringing in protest. He was randomly spawning in different spots in the small room, like he was traveling through a wire that I couldn't see at light speed. He continued to talk, his words jittery, zealous, but my eyes were too busy trying to keep up with him. I was too busy dodging the sparks that would propel themselves at me or items in the room that I knew Link would not want fried. It was a mess. Oh, okay. I'll help you, but please, can you calm down? I really don't want this room to get destroyed or for my parents to come in. In order to protect them, I had to keep the spirit warrior stuff in my life a secret. Plus, I didn't need my dad to banish me for making a mess in Link's room. He hated the holidays enough as it was. The boy clapped his hands together, the thunderous sound making my hair stand on end. Like a ninja trick, he was in front of me once more. Granted, he was panting, fragments of ectoplasm spinning around him as if they were dazed. But he was in front of me, his finger on his huge teeth showing. Sorry about that. When I get excited, I kind of bounce all over the place. A charged atom with no way to fully release its energy in the world. I disentangled my arms from their shield position over my head, the movement giving me goosebumps and prickly feeling warmth under my flesh that I wanted to scratch at. At this statement, I gave him my full attention, his grayish gold infused pupils zinging with a vigor all their own. Are you infused with electricity? Because the way you became, is that how you became a spirit? That would explain your power and why you were in my game. The small bolts that were floating around his skull flickered dimly around his spikes, his eyes clouding over slightly like the state of a storm. The start of a storm. Yeah, nah. I was killed, you see, in a car accident by a drunk driver. My parents and I were on our way to watch my little brother play in his first ever middle school basketball game. It was a good hour away. He rode with the team on the bus. I was in the back of my parents' car, fully into my Final Fantasy game on my PSP. All I did was game. It's who I am. Or was. Well, we got hit by this freak who was driving the wrong way, speeding out as something like a police would chase in Grand Theft Auto. The last thing I saw was my PSP screen. A boy minding his own business, and because of someone else's bad choices, his young life was cut too short. No matter how many times I heard these tales from spirits, it didn't make me feel good or get used to them. Lessen the pang in my heart, the sickness I felt for the human race at times. Yet I knew never to apologize. I was close to death myself, but sometimes an apology only digs the hurt in deeper. I instead turned my attention to the neon sign above him. All spirits had these, and I could see the date that he phased to the next world. According to his reading, his birthday now coming into ectoplasmic view. I did some simple math to figure he was 17, a year and a few months older than me. Since the last tangible thing you had was your game, I can see that why you're connected to electricity or a power source. I've met other spirits before that are connected to items they were with when they transferred over to the spiritual world. I never have heard of powers coming from it, but I'm a believer of what I've seen. He chuckled, his spikes sizzling along with the sounds, reminding me of a chef humming while at the grill of an outdoor event. Well, electricity is a perk, but it's not what I'm connected to. It took me a while to figure out what it was. Until recently, I was bored, so I phased into a kid's bedroom while he was playing a game, touching the screen, and well, I got sucked in, and I could travel in this like cyberspace of static. Writing different surges of power to any game I chose is on. It's so surreal. Beyond rad. The coolest thing, though, is that I can go inside the game and battle alongside the player or become a playable character. After scaring a few people, but I waited until the game was paused to explore, or I could blend into with a party game where the fighting's all jumbled. It's such a trip, man. I arched my eyebrow trying to perceive this. For a spirit, this was a pretty incredible amount of power, and since he wasn't a magician in his living life, I wasn't sure what to think. Any powers he had in his lifetime should not have carried over. He must have been one heck of a gamer or a mage in several RPGs, or this power was needed for a greater purpose. You don't believe me, huh, Miss Spirit Warrior? His eyes slanted in a cocky challenge as his smirk became that of a character with all his movesets maxed out. To point to himself, reminding me too much of Axel, the character's personality I had memorized. Look at my skin, go ahead! He got right up close and personal, humming Darth Vader's march after his dare with a boyish close smile, acting like we were just two friends conversing. Why do I always get the kooky ones? I tiptoed a few inches back so I could get a good look at his face. As his large eyes blinked, sweet eagerness and determination in their flakes of gray and gold, I noticed something embedded in his flesh. All spirits looked human, but at the right angle and light, they were as white as a sheet with a slick appearance to their skin, looking like a true depiction of a floating cadaver. It's eerie and harsh. Yet most of the time they look like themselves, but with their aura outlined around them. It's like a very well-crafted hologram. Yet his skin had another layer. Little near microscopic squares of peach that laid on his flesh. I had to squint to see the outline, but when I leaned my head back, all I saw was him. It was like a piece of art that makes one giant picture when in reality, when you were right up in front of it, you saw it was composed of multiple tiny shapes and designs. Mr. Sheep made us do one of those a few weeks ago in art too. Pixel art. You're partly made of pixels, I exclaimed outwardly. covering my mouth as I walked around him to get better in different angles. He seemed pleased by this, staying still as he floated for once, his smile tender as he placed his hands behind his back. Sure enough, his hands had pixels, too. Everything but his hoodie and pants were made of pixels. That explains your ability to go inside games. You're made out of graphics. Right on. I'm glad we're on the same page. I knew this would be a weird thing to explain, but now that you know, I can get on with my reason for invading your turf. You see, he sighed, blowing a few pieces of pixel off his hand in the process. They spun dizzily in front of my nose, one landing on it and zapping me. I screeched at it, and from shock, feeling its slickness I felt earlier when he waved his hand in front of my face, the tissue paper feeling. Oh, I knew that sensation felt familiar, so I now knew his pixels chipped away. Maybe he was borrowing the power then. But why have them and with a time limit? The spirit boy stuffed his hands in his belly pocket with a flourish, his eyes staring at the rug as his cheeks crept into a pink heat. Sorry about that zap, Miss Moon. It happens sometimes. They don't hurt you, but it's a really weird tingle that you're not used to expecting. He looked so normal now, his bashfulness taking over his gamer attitude so purely that I smiled. It was cute. No worries, and please call me Stary. Now, do you know why you have these powers? He lifted his head up with this, a desire and plea burning in his eyes, opening his soul to me. Thank you, Stary. What a fun name to say. It's so RPG. But yeah, I know why. I've been gone for 3 years now, and the accident took our dad, too. It's been my mom and my little brother ever since. I watch them every day. Dad moved on to heaven, but they haven't seemed to fully recover. All my brother did was play video games nonstop, rarely sleeping or moving from his chair. I thought I was bad, but I've always been awkward. He always was a ray of sunshine in his group, good at sports, smart, such a kind brother who learned to game so we could hang out together. He could have been a success. It hurts me to see him like that, closing himself off to the world. A few weeks ago, he was playing games late at night when his leg began to jolt and buckle under him. He screamed, but it was cut off and he went still. Luckily, he did scream. My mom heard him and rushed him to the ER. He had a blood clot due to him never getting up to take a break to move his muscles, something I always told him to do when we were kids. He went into a coma state, a lucky break since most of those are instant fatality, but he was only stable now on a ventilator. I covered my mouth, forcing the gasp that wanted to escape to stay at bay. I've heard of teenagers passing away due to blood clots with obsessive amounts of playing, but to hear about it from a source squeezed my heart with sorrow. I'm so sorry to hear about your brother. His hair deflated as the sparks around him moaned and barely boiled around him. The little bolts around his head reacted to his moods, I suppose. They must have been leftover ectoplasm that fused with his power, or were attracted to his light. Thank you. And to be honest, there's little hope for him surviving this. My mom is devastated. I don't want her to be alone, but right now, mentally, my brother is struggling and in so much pain. Like me, the last thing he witnessed was his game screen, and he was in the middle of a secret boss on expert mode, the final level of his game. In his mind, he connected that with his pain, and his soul is in limbo as it is, refusing to move on until he fights the final foe. My brain began piecing together tragic puzzles together, seeing the connection. So, you believe that the reason you were meant to stay, the mission you need to complete, was to help your little brother's soul move on? How touching it was that he had no bitterness towards his brother, only love. The divine blessed him with the special ability to help his little brother move on to an afterlife they could be at peace together. Bile rose in my throat, conflicted if I was gracious or saddened by this twist of destiny, a knot that seemed too doomed either way. I tried to untangle it. Too true, Sailor Starry Fighter. You seem like you're a master class of catching on. His teeth shone, the sparks around him colliding with each other, zinging with thrill, a hum similar to that of a computer being turned on to life. I crossed my arms, giving him a relaxed shrug with a sly smile to match. I was getting more comfortable around him, as long as he didn't start zipping around the room like a rampage pinball. I'm working on it. I scratched my head, the thought that I didn't know his name befuddling me. Yet, his neon sign was so bright that it looked washed out, faded in eternal white-hot rays of heat. I'm so sorry. I guess I should have asked your name first thing. Go-Go, he stated, nodding, doing a pose where he pointed to his cheek, a cheesy grin glued to his paper-toned face, his other arm acting like it was shouldering a mighty long sword. The bolts of energy around him wove in and out of his spiky patch of wheat-hued hair, others buzzing around him in a dance, making sounds that sounded close to ta-da in a static code. Good gosh, how long did they practice that? I gave him a reassuring lift of my lips, like I was talking to a child when they excitedly told me their straight line was a dragon breathing fire on a field. Oh, is that your username for your games? I use Sakura Star usually, or sometimes Chirisuki. I like Go-Go. It's very energetic. No. That's my actual name. Well, an abbreviation of it. I gave him a look that was mystified. I dealt with Rico, who had hair as blonde as a buttercup, and I know my brother and I had unique names, but my mind was drawing a blank on what that could stand for in America. Go-Go? My full name is Goben Gerderick, but that's too much to say. So I wanted to be called Go-Go. I have since I was 4. I switched my lips to side to side, rolling the ideas on my tongue before speaking. Your name sounds really cool. I like it, but I'll admit it's a tad long and on the unique spectrum. What's your brother's name then? Brian. Huh. Well, that was unexpected. What else was there to say? All right. So that's a little bit about Go-Go, and him and Stary are going to be working together to save his brother. Will they do it? How do pixelated powers work in the spiritual world? Even though Stary's a spirit warrior, can she use them? You guys will have to find out in The Power of Mortals, in the short story only available in this book called Pixelated Paranormals. You can get The Power of Mortals and all my other books on Amazon and other realtors. I will have my website, which is now heavily updated, and everything else in the description. Thank you guys so much for the support. If there's any other books you want me to go back to, or just anything else you'd like to see, let me know, and I'd be happy to work it out because I want to make you guys happy. All right. Thank you for the support, and make sure you have an awesome sauce day. Remember, you're a star. All right. Signing off. Bye.